PJ and I wanted to take a moment and give you a demo of exactly what this platform looks like, especially for those of you who are still on the fence about whether or not you might be considering joining us as a sponsor or an exhibitor. So PJ, why don't you go ahead and fire up the demo here. Let's go ahead and do a quick walkthrough of what the expo hall looks like. Now, a lot of folks are feeling zoomed out. It's one of the reasons why we are doing this conference. This is not a Zoom experience. This is it's a 2D, but virtual world where you can walk around, engage with booths like the InPhase booth that you see here, WTS, Mako, some of the partners who've come along to be both sponsors and exhibitors.
Yeah, and it really is. I've been describing it to folks as it's an in real life conference, but in an online 3D platform. It's really kind of hard to imagine. The other day I described it to someone as trying to describe what an ice cream cone is when you're only used to eating it out of a bowl. If you describe it with words, it's kind of hard to imagine, but actually taking a look at it, you kind of get it right away.
Yeah, one of the cool things about even the way this expo hall is set up is you see those little blue lines. Anytime you're inside of one of those blue lines, it's a private space. So just like you'd walk away from one booth, walk into another booth at Solar Power International, and be able to have conversations with those folks without listening to the conversations at another booth, that's possible inside of this physical virtual world. You can see, of course, there's SunCast Media branding all over the walls here. All of that branding, when we get into the show itself, will be labeled like you see here with WTS, private meeting areas that are dedicated to folks like Wärtsilä, InPhase, Sonova, some of the sponsors that have come alongside to be active and present at this exhibit hall. And it's super exciting that PJ and I kind of got infatuated with this idea through the Midwest Solar Expo, where we were able to actually meet people that we had not met before walking around this virtual campus. PJ, what else excites you about SunCast Puerto Rico?
It really is awesome. Yeah, it's better, like you said, about the silence when inside of booths. It's better than in real life in some ways, and that's one of them. The trade show is going to be kind of loud when you're walking around because you can hear people. You actually wear headphones so you can hear someone if they walk up on your left and say, "Hey, Nico," you'll hear them and turn your head, and it's called 3D spatial audio.
Proximity aware, yeah, it's amazing.
Yeah, and then to find a quiet spot to talk, you just walk inside of a booth with a blue line around it, and it's just a cone of silence right there. Another thing that is my pet peeve at conferences is recognizing someone and not quite remembering their name, and then you kind of squint at their name tag, and then more than half the time it seems like their name tag is backwards. Well, at this event, everyone's name and organization is just hovering over their head or the head of their avatar. So you instantly know by just looking who's in the room. You also can just look in the upper left-hand corner, and it has a list of everyone that's in the room.
Yeah, so actually let's go do a live demo. We've got Jose inside of the platform. I'm going to pull down your screen here, PJ. Jose is inside the actual Virbela platform. So you can see what PJ was referring to. Jose's name is just floating right above. And you can see that above each and every other attendee. Probably Jose can see some other folks that are inside of the open campus there as he's walking around. But equally interesting, especially for you exhibitors, is that Jose or any of your team can go customize their avatar. So you could sort of uniform your exhibit staff with the same colors. You saw how the InPhase room or booth was all orange, the InPhase colors, which can be specifically RGB tuned to your exact profile or your exact color definitions. But Jose here can actually change clothes, change color of clothes to be brand specific, and also just to be interesting, right? It's not often that we get to sort of be something else or create our own avatar in a 3D virtual world. It's one of the fun things that you can do within this platform. What I found is that attendees at conferences value as much the experience of walking around and getting to know other attendees and stumbling into interesting conversations as they do the education platform. And in the pandemic, a lot of what we have all experienced is an onslaught of information and education mostly geared towards you sitting in front of a Zoom screen and becoming a Zoom zombie and not really engaging with others other than through a chat format. And what's happening right now in the world that Jose is in, he could walk up and talk to any of these folks. He could literally walk into the little orange circle, get to know any of those folks inside, and strike up a conversation with them. Anyone outside of that blue circle, incidentally, would not actually be able to hear what conversation is happening inside of that world. PJ, where do you think we would be interesting for us to show folks around?
Let's see. We already took a look at the expo hall. I wonder, Jose, could you go to an auditorium and take a look at what it looks like where presentations will be?
And let's show, Jose, instead of running, let's show just how easy it is that something you can't do in real life. You can teleport to the auditorium. Why don't you show the drop-down menu there and jump to the actual auditorium? And this is really cool because not only can you literally port to whatever location you want inside of the venue, inside of the event, you can also move around and go to specific people. So if PJ is on the soccer field and I'm inside of the auditorium, I have nothing more difficult to do than to drop down the menu, find PJ, and go to where PJ is. I can chat directly with PJ. I can have conversations with folks sort of in a chat function, as well as go to them physically. And you can all do it all in milliseconds.
This is cool. In the auditorium, it's sort of like a real life experience where you're sitting and watching a presentation, but it doesn't matter where you're sitting in the room. You can click and zoom in on the screen of whatever's being presented. It looks the same if you're on the front row or the back row. It's so cool. These rooms fit a few people or a lot of people. The room actually adjusts size based on how many people are in it. There's so many things that are possible in this virtual world that aren't possible in real life. I think it took us a little while trying to think of like, well, what are we going to do? We can't do in-life conferences.
What are all the options? Yeah.
And here we are. We're innovating. We're creating, and it really was great that Midwest Solar Expo kind of broke the seal for us here by trying out this specific platform. It was a really valuable experience, networking and seeing the presentations there. And we've taken that, building upon. You want to check out the soccer field?
Just a moment, for sure. One of the fun things that we're going to do as a way to help everyone get familiar with the platform, and to incentivize you to come in the weekend before, which incidentally, October 12th to 14th is the actual SunCast Puerto Rico event. On the 12th, we're doing a bunch of training, both in an academic environment as well as on campus for those who want to learn more about the platform. But the 13th and 14th are the actual event. The weekend prior, we're actually going to do a solar film festival from one of these auditoriums. So you can come and watch Jeff Spee's movie Solar Roots. And we've got a lineup of other videos that we're going to be streaming from within the platform. We think it's a really interesting way to get you all in, to get your avatar set up and have something fun to do while you're there before we actually start the conference. Yeah, why don't we go ahead and jump to the soccer field just as one more way to show kind of the dynamic breadth of this private island that we, in fact, have built purposely for this event.
This is so cool because just like in real life, you could walk somewhere. You could say, hey, you want to go to the soccer field? Great. And you could go walk, take a couple minutes to walk there. Mm-hmm. Or you can say you want to meet there right now. You go to the drop-down menu, click on soccer, and then within a couple seconds, you just, boom, appear there. The spatial, the 3D audio is just so cool. That's one of the things that struck me. You've got to wear a headset, and you got to use a PC or a Macintosh computer, actually. You have to be immersed and engaged in this thing. It's not a passive experience that you keep in the background. It is like going to a conference. I'm suggesting people take the day off, just like when you fly to go to a conference somewhere else. Mm-hmm. Like actually take the day off, or at least half a day, so you're able to engage in the sessions and with the people around you.
Yeah, it's such an interesting and unique venue. And the reality is on conference day, you'll be able to run, walk, port all over the campus, whether you go to any of the education sessions or not. You'll be able to walk around the expo hall and you'll be able to see maps around like this. And it's also a great, it's a huge campus, right? It's a great environment from a branding perspective several of our sponsors are really amped about the possibility that they can have their logo placed around campus the way you would at Solar Power International or Interest Solar.
Look at that. There's a soccer field. And this is so great. This the one thing I haven't seen in any other platform of is the bumping into people. When you do an online Zoom type thing, you kind of, you know exactly who's there. It's kind of more cut and dry. But here, because see, like Jose had a hard time finding the soccer field. It took him a good 2 minutes. So if this is during the actual conference, guaranteed he would have bumped into some other people. Like, hey, do you know where the soccer field is? I think it's this way. I'm like, who are you? What company are you with? You know,
and you can ask. It's a great point. And it's common, right? It feels a whole lot more real to life than anything else I've experienced. I remember walking around the Midwest Solar Expo as our first experience and bumping into my friend Etienne from Power Hub. Etienne and I ended up having a serendipitous 30-minute conversation that for both of us was quite meaningful. And then I walked around and walked into one of the meeting rooms alongside the soccer field and was able to bump into PJ. I actually saw that one of the meeting rooms had some branding and whatnot around it as well. What Jose's walking through now is the beach area of the island. You can get in and drive that boat around. It's a really unique experience. So we wanted to give everyone a chance to sense what this looks like